If you feel like you're looking for your purpose in life, you're kind of wandering, you don't really have a clear-cut direction, you feel kind of scattered and wondering what you're really doing from day to day financially and in your life, watch this next video all the way through. I interviewed Better Wealth's founder, Caleb Williams, and he literally will take you through step by step how you can get mission focused and bring clarity to your life financially and personally. Enjoy. Caleb is a great friend of mine. He's a brother of mine. I love this guy. And Caleb is, I tell everybody, the entrepreneur to watch over the next 10 years. Better Wealth will be the company that will be a household name and will make I think, one of the biggest impacts in this space that we're serving. And I'm really grateful to have Caleb on today. He's a best-selling author. And in my mind, Caleb is the expert in two areas. So this video is tough for me because I think really the and asset, which he created that concept, and then he also is the expert in intentional living. So my goal with my videos is to create a library for my viewers to get a lot of value out of. So we chose intentional living today. I think that's where you bring the most value. Caleb, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Dude, I love you, love your family, and April and I just had a blast last time we were hanging out, and so very grateful to be on and very grateful to be talking about something that is really near and dear to my heart.
It's made a massive impact in my life, and I want to start, before we kick things off, okay, we got the And Asset, which I love this book. If you haven't read it, I just got to give just 30 seconds of something that I think would benefit my people watching this video, my audience. If you haven't read the And Asset, I highly encourage it. I send Caleb's content in this book to so many people. It is just incredible. And then if you get a chance, are you guys doing more of these?
Yep.
Okay. If you get the chance, this is a must attend. Don't think about it. It is worth 100 times the price of admission. And I get invited to stuff like this, these workshops and seminars all over the country all the time. I'm inundated with them. Caleb's is the only one I go to, and it is worth the price of admission. You have to attend one of these workshops. I can attest to having a massive impact in my business and life since last June when I went to mine. So again, thank you for putting those on, man. I know it's a ton of work for you and your team. It's all great stuff. Okay, so let's dive in. Like I mentioned, I want to really get clear on how you arrived at your mission of helping people to realize their purpose.
Yeah, so really for me, we have to really go back to what was Caleb's insecurities. And I was the oldest of 6 kids. I had a really hard time reading. I was super short for my age. My younger sister was taller than me. My identity was in me being not very smart and really me potentially never crossing the 5 foot, status. And so I just think of that like being, back 12, 13 years old when my mom was like, Caleb, your identity is not in those things. In fact, the art of working harder is going to be what you look back and you're going to be grateful on. And so I took that and really took that to heart and started working hard. And I realized a couple themes, like I love people. And I realized that if I could be a part of helping people on their mission to reaching their highest potential and really like seeing that, I'm like, that would be worth getting up every day. That would be worth failing forward every day. And so it was like that light bulb for me that I was like, okay, that really changed my perspective from really looking at like what other people think of me to then looking and saying, okay, I actually have value and who cares what Daniel thinks about me, because I'm not going to live my life based on other people's opinions.
That's incredible. My goal with this is that people can get clarity after watching this video. People that are kind of wandering or need to get a direction, they can watch you. And selfishly for me, I've been excited for this just so I can get some time with you and learn as well, because you are the expert in that area of really bringing clarity to not just financial issues, but things in your life that really need clarity as well. So tell me, from your point of view, what is intentional living?
Intentional living is living life with no other inputs other than what your true identity should be built around. And I'm actually going to go backwards because I really want to mention something that I think could help a lot of people. Actually, I shared this when I was on NAFA stage, which was a big stage. I was speaking to a lot of my peers, a lot of people that I respected. And I felt like I needed to say something that I was scared. And I said, guys, we're going to be talking all about tactics and growing and scaling virtually. But if I don't talk about this one word, I'm going to leave this stage not giving everything I can give. And that word is identity. And when I was 21 years old, I had the opportunity to leave the bank and to start Better Wealth. And I was excited. There was a lot of cool ideas that I had, but I was terrified. I was terrified because I like identified that I had fear. I had fear about what other people thought of me. I had fear about what my dad would think or what my mom would think or the people that loved me the most. I feared their opinion. And I had to really look myself in the mirror and say, am I going to let other people's opinions? Am I going to let other fear literally control my life? Because if that's the case, I want to be self-aware of that, and I want to know that I'm a puppet. But like, it was in that moment that I was like, okay, failing, and you know this, failing financially while writing a book on money is like kind of painful, kind of puts a sick feeling in your stomach. But I was like, am I going to let that determine why I do what I do? And so, Daniel, I had to get really clear with that. I had to get really comfortable to say my identity is not based around what other people or my perception of what other people think. It was that moment that my identity shifted to a quote unquote, like being liked, to like knowing who I am within. And it's been a journey ever since, but like that was necessary for me to take a leap. And I think there's so many people that are truly not unlocking intentional living, truly not living a free life, because they have fear in other places. And until you actually do the hard work and highlighting that, unfortunately, you could, go to self-motivational, course here and read this book here, and it's all great. But at the end of the day, you're not doing the deep work to actually change. And so I just feel like that needs to be said now. And that really is at the foundation of where my mindset shifted. And I was like, okay, when it comes to money, so many people are letting other people's perspectives, but then lack of knowledge and ignorance around money, around their time, around their skill sets. And now that's controlling them. So there's very few people that are truly living an intentional life, because to truly live intentional, you need to own your time, you need to own your skill sets, you need to own your money, and you need to own your relationships. And there's just not a lot of people that can raise their hand saying, yes, I'm living intentional in all 4 of those areas.
100%. That's so powerful. Yeah, I want to touch on something you mentioned in that last segment in a minute, but while we're talking about identity, and I appreciate being so transparent because you're just tremendously honest, and it's so valuable for people to hear this because it gives them a sense of being able to admit that it's okay to confront their fears with themselves. Who is Caleb outside of Betterworth?
Caleb is someone that's trying to be a better pickleball player. And so I'm currently very frustrated because as a ping pong player, I feel like I can make shots that currently are not showing on the court. But ultimately, Caleb is married to the love of my life, April. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and it's like the most important thing in my life. And so hopefully that's not a shock to anyone who knows me. And then I love business, and business for me is a platform to serve other people, to make money, be able to be generous. But really, I love the creation. I love creating value. Value should be something that, again, we should want to create because it attracts money, it attracts things to us, but it also, it's like it gives. By creating value, by default, you're creating more than you're taking. And I just love business, and any opportunity that my time, money, skill set can create more. I just love that.
That's incredible, man. So I wasn't going to go here, but I'm just going to throw it in because I feel like compelled now because you shared so much and so honestly. So I'm going to share our story about how we met a little bit real quick because I think it's relevant to what you just said. So when we met, and you mentioned this in your last little part you just said, I was going through a time in my life where I was building up these walls of trying to like find my own identity because I started a business, and like a lot of entrepreneurs ended up starting 3 businesses at once. And Caleb flew to my house right at a time when I needed to really make some choices on like which business I was going to stick out. And you were kind of like, that scene in Top Gun where they crash and then they send out that rescue helicopter and the guy like dives in the water with them and is like trying to get him out. That was like Caleb coming to my house, going through my businesses. We drew it all out on a whiteboard, and you're like, all right, this is what you need to do, man. Like you need to get really clear on one thing. And that's when you gave me the book, The One Thing. And so that was super helpful for me to find my identity and now be able to reach my potential, or on my way to reaching my potential with my one thing of serving people as being an agent. And that was really something that you were able to do for me, which is why I felt like I needed to share this time with you and the world so people could hopefully do the same in their business. So I just want to say thank you to you again. I know we touched on that earlier, but that was important for you to mention.
You're going to be able to help so many people through that experience. And it was just as life-giving for me. It's like super fun to be able to talk to people who have humility. And one thing I love about you is like you want to do the right thing, and you are willing to lay the pride, the ego to make that happen. And that's why we get along so well. And I just love what you're doing. I love what you're doing on this YouTube channel and the people that you get to serve.
Yeah, one of my coolest moments was you took me out to that event where I got to meet some amazing, like now lifelong friends. And you had a moment where you got to introduce all your guests, and you introduced me as a family man. You're like, Daniel's like a true family. Like that's who he is. That meant the world to me because it meant that, I was showing up with my priorities and what mattered. So that was cool that you were able to see me through that time. And we formed such a great friendship. Okay, let's get back to Better Wealth because you guys are making a massive impact for people in intentional living. Can you share with us your framework on how you guys are helping clients every day at Better Wealth?
Yeah, so our Better Wealth framework is built around a couple steps. Step number one is all about clarity. And it's again, how can we help someone if they're not really clear about what they truly want out of life? And so we really try to reverse engineer, like, okay, what does your dream life look like? And we look at in categories of time. What are you doing with your time? We look at that in categories of skill set. If you're not doing like what you're good at, a lot of times like we're all good at different things. Like find that and live that out, because people that are truly living their skill sets out, like that's one of the wealthiest moments that you can have in your life. Relationships, like audit, who do you love being around? Who should you maybe cut out of your life? And then as it relates to around money, we really love the word stewardship. It's like, how can you steward money as like fuel, as a tool to be able to make that happen? And so some of the questions that you can write down is, if money wasn't a thing at all, what would you be doing? Like really get clear on that. And then really define wealth. Wealth is what? I know I share this in the workshop, and I've shared this on other stages, but it's like Warren Buffett's over 90 years old. He's worth over $100 billion. And yet you and I would not trade places with him. We're essentially saying that our lifetime, the 50, 40, 60, or I don't know how many years we have left on this earth, is worth more than $100 billion. Like, I don't think that sinks in, because if you audit what a lot of people are doing, as Robert Kiyosaki says, they're just on this rat race, and we're like running, and we're thinking we're running towards like money. But it's like, why? We wouldn't trade places with a ton of money if you change the circumstances. And so what we're really trying to do with clarity is perspective. We're really trying to gain perspective and figuring out, what do we truly want? Because at the end of the day, if we don't get really clear what we want, you can do all these things with your money. You can do all these things with the strategy, but if those strategies are helping you accomplish something that you don't really want in the end, we're spending a lot of time, a lot of money for something that's actually not going to move the needle in your life. So number one is clarity. Any questions or thoughts on that?
No, that's really clear. I'm thinking about the workshop specifically, yep. And I don't want to talk on that for a second, because that leads me to my next question. So when I went to this workshop, that was about 8 months ago. That was where my mission statement was born, was at this workshop in Colorado at the time. And my mission now is to help people realize their purpose in retirement. And that's always been, I know you don't like the word retirement, but that's always been my purpose. I just didn't have clarity around it. Since I proclaimed that and gone back to my business and my clients with that, the conversations I've shared with you, a few of them have been absolutely unreal. How much more intentional we're getting down to like what people are doing with their time and what they really value, so we can focus and kind of reverse engineer the pieces to meet that. And one thing I left the workshop with that I still want to ask you that I'm not clear on is, how do you know when you reach your potential?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that, but then I'm going to go back to the framework. So,
okay. Sorry, I thought I completed the framework.
Yeah. So how do you know if you're reaching your highest potential? You're never reaching your highest potential. Like that's the thing, is like, if you ever arrive, then you should die. Like it's at the end of the day, for me, we have to play a game that you're not just going to arrive. And it's one of those things where you shouldn't continue to try to strive, in my humble opinion. You should just love the journey. And that's something, full transparency, I'm still working on. But back to the framework is clarity is the most important thing. Like number one, that's like perspective, getting really clear. And then everything else, I'm going to go through the steps, but everything else you can just think of efficiency. My favorite definition of efficiency is removing any friction to get to your desired result. So if, Daniel, we get clear about what you want, then it's, what friction are you experiencing with your time, relationships, money, and skill sets on you not accomplishing or living that out? And at Better Wealth, we very much look at it through the lens of money, how your time is a part of that equation, how you're using your skill sets. And we're asking, do you have friction around how much money you're making? You have friction by what money's being consumed. Are you overpaying on taxes? Are there inefficiencies? Are you losing money to unnecessary fees or market volatility, or you name it? It's like, what frictions or what things are in place in your framework that is creating more friction to get to where you want to go? And then on the flip side, it's like, what can we do? How can we better control? How can we better compound? How can we better get our money, fuel, tools to be able to work for us not just to compound, not just to quote unquote retire just to retire, but that is actually fulfilling what you truly want. And so the big thing about efficiency is we got to get clear about the results that we truly want. And so step number one is clarity. Step number two is really auditing where things are at. We're looking at cash flow coming in, money leaving, and money that is staying, and how is it working for you? These are the three things that we're auditing, and we're trying to optimize. We're trying to make better. And then we really say, how can we make sure that it can be protected? Because there are things that you can't plan for, I can't plan for, our clients can't plan for, and so we got to make sure that we are hedging or protecting, based on almost anything happening, so that they can continue for us unlocking their intentional life, no matter what happens. And so our framework is pretty simple, and you can think about it as getting super clear and then being efficient in getting to what you want.
So powerful. I want to stop for a second, because anybody watching this, if they just listen to all that and they're like, okay, yeah, I got to get clear. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, I can't wait to get off and like start writing down some things to get clarity and remove some friction, because that's absolutely the answer. That is so powerful and impactful. Talk to me about this concept you have called value leveraging.
Yeah, I love this. So value leveraging is my framework for business. All businesses it's an entity that either provides a service or a product. Okay, we have money, and we will spend money on either a product or a service. That's it. You as a person can either provide a service, employment, start a business that provides a service, or you can create a product. Those are the only two ways that you can, quote unquote, provide value. Test me on this, but it's true, okay? So if you know that your input can only provide a service or a product, value leveraging pretty much says, if people will pay for the perception of value. So the number one thing that we should do in our business, or if we audit our time, is ask the question, how can I provide more value in the products that I'm making, or more importantly, in the service that I'm providing to my employer or to the marketplace? And we figure out, how do we do that? And some of the questions is like, who are we serving? What problems do they have? And how can we better serve or solve those problems? If you can answer those three questions, like you've got the value. And if you like can answer those and like if people resonate, you are now providing value. And you know that when people are like, I will give you my time, I'll give you my money if you can solve my problems. So that's number one. Number two is leverage, and wealth and influence really comes in form of leverage. And when you think of leverage, a lot of people think of like borrowing other people's money. And in 2023, leverage comes in all types of forms. Naval has influenced my thinking a lot around this. And so he talks about leverage being in forms of people, money, language, platforms, the ability to even do what we're doing is a form of leverage. And so it's like pretty much it's amplifying anything that you're doing. So if number one, if you can provide value, and then number two is you can amplify that value, you'll become very wealthy, very influential, and help more people. And so that's in everything that I try to look at. It's like, okay, number one, am I providing value to this person? Is this business providing value? Is, if I'm auditing a business or looking to invest in a business or into an investment, I'm always looking, okay, what is the actual value that I'm investing my time and money into? Check. Okay. Then the second thing is, what are the different levers, not just the money lever, that can amplify that value? And then the beautiful thing about leverage is leverage shouldn't just increase your risk. It shouldn't exponentially just increase your risk, your chance of loss. Leverage should actually amplify your ability to create more value by eliminating or limiting your risk. And so that is also very, very key, and something that a lot of people miss. They overextend themselves, they over leverage themselves, but it's not good leverage because they're creating an exponential risk. And if they're being honest, they're amplifying something that's not truly valuable. And so they're just overexposed and they're lighting their business and dreams on fire.
Yeah, that's powerful. I love that concept that you teach, and it's made a huge impact in my business and getting clear on some things that I needed. One of the things that I love that you're talking about a lot right now, and that I got from your workshop, was you introduced this idea of creating your own video eulogy about yourself. So I'm curious to know, because I did this exercise and it is a life-changing exercise. I encourage all my clients to do it now. So when it's all said and done, everything's in the record books, we're all, in heaven at this point. Who was Caleb Guilliams?
I'm going to say two things because you got me thinking about something. So when I think about value leveraging and I think about my mission of helping people, reach their highest potential, I was thinking, what would be the most valuable thing that I could give to humanity right now? one of the most valuable things, because again, as a Christian, I can't play the trump card, but one of the most valuable things I could do for a human is get them to think with the end in mind and get them to express gratitude and what they truly value and what their their life amounted to. And in doing that, obviously the ripple effect that would have to their family, to their friends, to the people watching would just be unbelievable. It would be the most memorable. It would be the video that would last for, hopefully if it was preserved for generation after generation and generation. So that alone would be beautiful. But the thing that actually fires me up more is the act of making that video. You already win, because the act of either writing or looking into your phone or camera and sharing like you are no longer here to the people that you love the most, you will be a different person when you do that activity. And so that's what got me fired up, because not only is the end product something that's incredible, but the act of doing it will change your life today. So that's what I want to say as it relates to that. And then I will just say, like, my video was very much of like, guys, like, there's way more to life. And I talked about number one, where my identity is. It's in Christ, and like whom I am. And then I just thanked the people that poured into my life. And I encouraged people to truly live with no regrets, because death is one of the biggest perspectives. And a lot of times, if you think with the end in mind, you start living more free, because you know that no matter how wealthy you are, that day will come. And so often we're letting the urgency, or we're just getting lulled into every day, but we don't think that one of those days is going to end. So I know I didn't say that perfectly and beautifully, but at the end of the day, it's that my eulogy video is very much like that, and really encouraging people to live their one life well.
That's awesome, man. You did say it beautifully. And we do share the same faith. And one of my favorite moments for you was I introduced you to a pretty big entrepreneur, and it was like kind of like a meeting of the Titans in my mind. And he asked you, hey, what business books are you currently reading? You're like, Proverbs, like best business book, which was a cool response that I always remembered and cherished. So I don't know if you know this about yourself, but we're kind of in the same circles. We talk to kind of similar people in the industry. And whenever your name comes up, the one word people say to me all the time is, man, that guy is so wise. So what do you define as like a financially wise person?
That is a great question. I normally have answers, but I've never thought about that. I think when it comes to being financially wise, it's really valuing things that you may or may not be able to measure. And so for me, I'm very much trying to value, okay, what really matters here? Or in 5 years, does this really matter? If it doesn't matter after 5 years, why are we worrying about it? Why are we creating anxiety around this? Why are we like really hard on ourselves? And that's one thing that I really try to do, is I try to put things in perspective. So maybe if to answer your question, how do you be wise around money? It's really putting money in perspective, not just now, but in the future. And a lot of people do a very, very, very poor job thinking long range. And so as a result, we're usually not stewarding our money in ways that it can be a tool for us now and in the future.
I hope people watching can appreciate how many difficult questions that I've asked you in a row. Like, not these, yeah. These are like the fluff questions. I'm so sorry. You're such a good friend and you've been such a great sport, but I'm just amazed by you, man. It's incredible how you really speak from the heart, and you really think before you speak, and you really are genuine and show up that way. There's a couple more tough ones, and then we're gonna get to a couple fun ones when we wrap up. So I'm curious to know, because I've never actually asked you this before, as someone who's achieved so much so early on, I think it's a testament to your principles and your values that you live by every day. But what is your idea of abundance?
Abundance is really like truly wanting other people to reach their highest potential without having expectation of like I need that. It's like truly helping people with no expectations. Mm-hmm. That's a form of abundance. And I think Dan Sullivan talks about collaboration being better than competition. And I'm always trying to look about where 1 + 1 can equals more than 2. So it's like, okay, selfishly, dude, if I can help you, like I'm not transactional. Okay. But if like I can really help you just own life, like that's going to be great. Like I just by default, if you're living better, like that's incredible for me. And oh, by the way, if you help enough people with that, get what they want, I think is Zig Ziglar, then you'll get what you want. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And so it's really just coming to the table and saying, how can I be a giver? How can I truly give strategically? Because there is a balance of not just like giving, like you need to have boundaries. You got to know where you want to go. You want to go deep, but you truly, when you're working with people, you cannot be transactional. And if you are transactional, that's a form of scarcity.
Do you believe in the concept of like manifesting?
Yes, I do. I think in like a lot of things, I think there's versions of it that I go, okay, like I read Think and Grow Rich and like a lot of the concepts, and will not comment on some, but I 100% believe that what you think about are things that you will attract, and that's a biblical concept as well. And so yes, I believe in manifestation.
One of my favorite subjects right now is kind of studying that crossover between the biblical concepts of it and what there's a lot of like people online right now talking about this concept of manifesting, and so I think as a Christian there's some discernment there that you have to kind of figure out for yourself. But that's one thing I was curious to ask you about, how you felt, because you've accomplished so much, and being a person who's a follower of Christ, you know, it's cool to watch. So I was curious about your thoughts on that. Okay, let's kind of go back,
Daniel. It's interesting, Daniel, because every time you say I've accomplished a lot, I cringe inside because I do not see my life like that. Not from a woe is me, but I do not look at life through accomplishments. I look at life as like, we're just getting started. We're just scratching the surface. And so I want for the record to say you're very kind. I appreciate your kind words,
Sure.
but it's not a mindset. I never wake up ever and be like, wow, I've accomplished a lot. It's always looking forward and saying, number one, I'm grateful for the experience and the process, but number two, like there's a lot of work to be done. And and so that's the perspective that I think you and I both have, and that's why we get along so well.
Totally. And I mean it genuinely, but you got to at least admit though, from the outside, like, you know, you and I are relatively younger in this area. I mean, compared to our peers that we interview on these channels and like a lot of people we meet with, like we're always looked at as like the younger guys, and I'm still quite a bit older than you. So that's what I'm saying. Like you have to look and step back once in a while and say, hey, you know, for what I've built at this stage. And that's what gets me so excited about you, because of what you've built with your principles. Like you're long on everything. So that trajectory to me is what gets me excited to see like what Better Wealth's going to do, you know, with you at the helm. And that's what I mean by that. It's cool, man. It's awesome. So you do interview a ton of tax professionals. I've watched a lot of cool interviews you've done recently, specifically on taxes. You have that incredible tax survey. Like what's one powerful tip? Like not the like regular run of the mill stuff. I mean, like what's one really cool thing you've walked away with from recently from one of these interviews that's powerful from a tax perspective? And let's go with like somebody who's maybe like a small business owner.
Yeah. So I mean, I could plug our, is it betterwealth.com/checklist? I don't know. We have something. I'll make sure it's in the description. I'll make sure Daniel has it. We have our checklist for business owners. Here's what I'll say. It's really understanding entities and understanding that their entities have pros and cons, and you can have a couple in your structure. And when you have a couple different entities for different pros and cons, a lot of times you can win by default. And so that's number one. Number two is understanding deductions and really maximizing them, but not letting the deduction wag the tail. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to deduct this. They're actually spending more money for things that are not actually going to move the needle in their life. And so in, spite of paying the government, they're actually losing more money from a cash flow perspective. It would be understanding credits. And this is something I'm still working on, is like, how can you really lean in and maximize credits? And then there's other advanced strategies. I actually just did a video today that's going to be on my YouTube channel. And we talked about, creative ways that you can actually like maximize your at-home deduction by eliminating any like hallways or throughways. There's ways that you can like take, assets that you have and give them to people in your family and then lease it back to your business. So you're getting a write-off from a higher tax deduction and potentially paying, people in your family at a lower deduction, like that's at a different tax bracket. Like that's really cool. And then a lot of people are talking about the Augusta rule, but I think that is even super cool because a lot of successful entrepreneurs are not renting out their house on Airbnb, but you can actually, take your house in 14 times or less times a year. You can, you can have your business rent it to yourself, taking money from one pocket, which is taxable, getting a tax deduction and putting it tax-free in the next pocket. And so when you start stacking those it becomes really fun. And again, I don't, not to plug our business, but we have a
Please.
business helping entrepreneurs keep more of their money through tax strategy. And so
Yeah.
we'll make sure if anyone wants a tax checklist, they get it. And if there's anything that we can do more, we would love to chat with you.
Yeah, I want people to come to Better Wealth from this video. So this video is not like designed to bring people to Nations First. I want people to go to Better Wealth from this because I took that analysis and you have to do it. Like if you haven't done it, there's no way you're optimizing everything. And from there, I started meeting with professionals locally here. And I finally feel confident that me as a business, I have like an optimized, as efficient as I could be tax strategy. But it took work. Like it took the hard work of like meeting with different tax attorneys, CPAs, figuring it out, doing some work to restructure. Like I don't like a lot of paperwork. I do a lot of paperwork, and but it's worth it. Like it's been very meaningful. So, okay, I asked you some tough questions. Let's get to some fun stuff and then we'll wrap up. This is going to be more of a rapid fire round. So I just want to get some cool things from you while I can. What's the best thing you bought for under $100 in the last year?
These are the tougher questions for me because I don't put any thought into this. Let's see.
You know, some cool sleep gadget or like a book or something.
Everything's more than $100. I'm trying to. I should really have. Don't ask me what my favorite music is.
Let's revise the question. What's the favorite thing you bought in the last 12 months that's not financially related?
It would be my pickup. It would be my pickleball racket, and it hasn't paid off yet. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, cool. All right.
It's a paddle for all you people critiquing me in the comments.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you do get to like you do a great job of building relationships. I really view like you as somebody who measures their wealth in relationships, and so you do spend time with a lot of people. Who are your like top 10 entrepreneurs that are like your people that you're like, these are the people that I follow that you should be watching too?
That is another really good question. I will say you
can't say me to be nice. Like just take let's just get to 10.
So I love Alex Hormozy. I think $100 million offers is amazing. I love Naval. He really talks about leverage in a really, really cool way. Dale Carnegie, it's like a classic. I love audiobooks, by the way, because a lot of times they're distilling concepts and you can listen to it. And, I listen to things at like 2x speed. And so I find that audiobooks, I get a lot more value than even podcasts because in writing, it makes them distill it makes them being more thoughtful than even in like a podcast. Like this is a more authentic way of communicating. But if someone actually read my book, like they would actually, versus me just talking about it, they would actually get more at the end of the day. And so I would say those would be key. And then I know this sounds really weird, but like I surround myself with people on the team, Dan, Dom, Jeremy, Demetrius, and like I would say I get a lot of people speaking into my life in a good way that make me better. And then my wife is someone that, even recently she's given me some advice that I've taken that have been like, it was really, really good advice that bettered my life and bettered outcomes in situations that I was in. And so like, those are people that I very much lean into. And so that would be my answer. And I am also in a season right now that I'm being very careful how many people I'm listening to. So I'm like rapidly cutting things out and not spending a lot of time on social media and not like trying to learn the next business guru book. Because I'm at a place where implementation is super, super key. And I don't need to spend more time procrastinating and learning. So I don't say that. I think you need to be really clear about what season you're in. And I think there's some people that know the answers, but they're just so addicted to that, like continuing to learn. They're not actually doing anything with what they're learning. And you'd be way better off like taking 1, 2, or 3 books, getting crystal clear on that, and then implementing it and not reading any other books. You're going to accomplish and be a lot more happier than the person that's never fully getting ahead and they're just on to the next concept.
That's such a beautiful answer, man. What is April up to these days?
She's cooking a lot, which is great. It's great for me. Not that you would know if you look at me. You wouldn't be like, wow, April's a great cook. I don't do her justice. But she's doing that. She's into health, helping people with their genetics and just really getting clear about like, hey, we're all different. And so maybe this is what you should focus on, what you eat or how you exercise based on how you're designed. And then I think she wants to be a farmer. I think we, watched a little bit of Yellowstone and we're ready to have a ranch. So I think she would identify as a future rancher.
That's so awesome. I can see her doing that, man. She's made such an impact on my family, and she's incredible. I just wonder if she had anything that people connect with or anything right now. So yeah, if there is, let me know, and we'll get that in the links too. Okay, my last question, because you're a great, an avid reader, and you've made a huge impact in my life with books. Give us some of your, like, it doesn't have to be a full 10, but give us your top books. Like, if you haven't read these are must reads for you. What are your must reads?
And I'm just gonna authentically pull up my Audible and start sharing.
Yeah.
So I just finished a book called Competing Against Luck, which is actually a book that the ex-CEO of Twitter, regardless of what Jack Dorsey recommended, and it very much talks about like innovation and companies that are really creating things. They look to the uses of things. They create things and market based on how people are going to use it, not the features, which is great. I think The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, a classic. If you want to be successful in business, you should read it. And he talks about thinking time. He talks about adding constraints into your life. Really, really good. He's lost a lot of money. He's actually also known for being the guy that's like the true rich dad with Robert Kiyosaki. And so he's got a lot of wisdom.
Wow.
Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh talks about the importance of culture. I would say this is really a key book for me in just starting Better Wealth. Is like, I wanted to be around people that I loved. I wanted the core values to be really key and attract that and not micromanage. The E-Myth Revisited is talking all about operations and being able to like scale and really create systems. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time reading. I think anything like Effortless is a good book of just like, again, a lot like what should we be focused on? We shouldn't just be focused on all the input. I love Peter Thiel and just zero to one. And there's so many others. I think like Think and Grow Rich is a classic. How to Win Friends and Influence People. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Dan Sullivan, big fan of his concepts. And so there's a lot more, but like those are some of the classics. I'm trying to look back on like I got some of your books in here, dude.
I know you're big on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that. Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so valuable to be able to talk to an entrepreneur and have them pull up their Audible and know what's making an impact in their business and life right now. I think that just provides a ton of value. So Caleb, I am just so grateful to you, man. Thanks for everything you guys are doing. Your team is incredible. If you get a chance, go to one of these. Like this is for me. You got to go check this out. If you get a chance this year, it's well worth it just to meet Caleb's team. They're incredible. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship, man. Thanks for coming on. How do people connect with you? How do people get in touch with Better Wealth? Where's the best way for people to go?
Yeah, so we'll have some links below. So just check that out. It's actually betterwealth.com/tax checklist is where you can get the checklist. And then we'll also have some other links that you can learn more about our event. And betterwealth.com is our website. And my email is caleb@betterwealth.com. And so if there's anything that I can do for anybody watching, I will go out of my way to serve you. I love Daniel, love what you guys stand for, and I just love what you're doing through this channel. And so it means a lot that I could be on your show. And I look forward to continuing to serve people and growing together, man.
Yeah. At its core, I mean, technically, you could say that we're competitors, but I don't view it that way at all. And I'm pushing people. I'm like, go check out Better Wealth. Like, you want to go through their process. It's amazing. So I really, truly mean that. And I'm just grateful. Please, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. It helps to reach more people and helps me to expand so I can bring other great entrepreneurs on like Caleb. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're coming out with a video every Saturday morning. We're doing a lot more interviews, trying to get right to some value, building this library. And we have guests like Caleb. We talk about intentional living and things that really matter. Comment. Caleb's really good about responding to comments. I'll make sure he responds to any questions anybody wants further information on. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.